Visual Studio 2005 replaced outdated controls that supplied the main menu, context menu, toolbar, and status bar because these controls didn't look like modern controls that are used in Windows applications. Instead, in Visual Studio 2005, you got access to controls like Menu Strip, Context Menu Strip, Tool Strip, and Status Strip. The names have changed and the behavior has changed as well. These work together in a similar fashion, and they provide modern, flexible user interface elements. They combine together with the tool strip container control that contains other strips and allows them to dock at the edges of forms and so on. All strip controls derive from the tool strip base class, so they share many features. And you can embed controls that inherit from toolstrip items, such as toolstrip menu item, toolstrip status panel, toolstrip button, toolstrip combo box, and many more. We'll look at some of these in this section. One goal of these new controls was to make it easier to create Office 2003-like interfaces. As always at Microsoft, the development tools are a version behind their user products. So although they've moved to Office 2007, and although you can create a ribbon customization in Visual Studio 2008, there is no update to Menu Strip and Tool Strip to make them more like the Office 2007 interface. We're still aiming at the Office 2003-like interface at this point. They were reasonably successful, although it does still require some effort to get the user interface just right. This section walks through samples that use the Tool Strip, Menu Strip, Status Strip, and Context Menu Strip controls. Now, if you're going to build MDI applications, you'll have special needs. Those applications deal with these controls in a different sort of way, and those aren't covered in this particular section. Let's try a demo that shows off working with the Menu Strip control. I've loaded the sample project for this section named Menus and Toolbars, and I'm going to work with this testform.cs to start with. On here, I'd like to drag a new Menu Strip control. So I go to my toolbox, scroll down till I find Menus and Toolbars, and add a Menu Strip. By default, it docks at the top of the form. In the upper left corner, I'm going to enter a new menu item, and I'll type ampersand, F-I-L-E. The ampersand gives me an underscore in front of the F, so I can use Alt-F to activate that menu item. Now on the next item, I can drop down this list of items so you can see what kinds of things I could put on this menu strip. There's a menu item, that's what I used last time. We can put a combo box, we can put a text box, and those are the controls we can place onto the menu strip. Now here I'm going to create a sub-item, and in this menu item here, we'll enter ampersand new. I'd like here to put some other kind of controls. Let's see what I can put there. I can put a menu item, that's what I've already put, a combo box, a separator, or a text box. I can choose separator here, or to make it simple, I can just type a hyphen, and they will assume I want a separator. And there it is right there. Here I'll enter another menu item, E_XIT, to create our exit menu. How do we add code to this? I can just double-click and go to the click event handler for my exit tool strip menu item. In here, I'll just put this.close. That should close the form when I click that menu item. Just to confirm that it works, well, before I do that, let's add some code to my new menu item. And here I'll put in something simple like message box.show, you clicked new. Fine, but you know, most menu items that are used often have shortcut keys associated with them. So here I'll go to the Properties window, find the Shortcut Keys property for the new menu item, and set them to be Control-N. So pressing Control-N will do the same thing as selecting this menu item would. I also want to make sure in the Properties window that the Show Shortcut Keys property is set to true, so it shows up here in the menu. Let me save this and run it. And now, of course, if I select File, New, I see the message box. Hands off the mouse. At this point, I press Control-N, and it acts as if I had selected that menu item. When I click Exit, the form closes. You might also want to add menu images to your menus. How can we do that? Well, we need to go to the Properties window and find the Image property. And the problem is finding images that are appropriate. Luckily, Visual Studio ships with a nice set of images you can use on your menus and toolbars. Let's go find those. Program Files, Microsoft Visual Studio 9. And in here, we'll find Common 7 and then the VS 2008 image library. Within the 1033 folder, there's a zip file, a compressed library. I unzipped this already and extracted it to this folder. If I dig down, I'll find Actions, Animations, Annotations and Buttons, and Objects. I'll choose Actions, go to the PNG format, that's a convenient format, and there's even a table of contents, this HTML file, which lists for you each image and what it's going to look like. So you can use this as an index to find the images you like. I've already done this. I've added some images as resources to our project. I'd like to set the image for the new menu item. I'll go to the Image property, bring up the dialog box. You can either use a local resource and import it, or choose an image from the project resource file, or import to that as well. I've already done that, but you're welcome to go get the file we'll be using, which is new-document-hs.png, which I've already added to this project. Click OK, and it becomes the image on that menu item. Well, setting up these images can be awfully arduous, especially if you're setting up menus that are common across multiple applications and look just like every other application. The answer might be to just delete this and start again and let Visual Studio do it for you. Let's get the menu strip here. Click the Smart tag, and now we have the option to insert standard items. When I do that, Visual Studio creates for us the standard set of menu items that most applications need. You can add more to this list. You can remove items that are already showing here. Notice these items have their icons set already, so you don't really need to do any work to set up the images for these menu items. Now that we have a menu on our form, let's add a tool strip as well. If we go back to the toolbox, we can choose Tool Strip, and by default this docks underneath the menu strip. Here you can see the kinds of items you can add to your tool strip, including a button, that's the default item, a label, a split button, a drop-down button, a separator, a combo box, a text box, or a progress bar. For now, I'm going to take the easy route again and insert standard items and let them insert all the items. For each one of these items, they've set the properties, things like the text have been set, the tooltip text has been set, and the image has been set for each one, making it easy for you to use these tool strip items. Although you can only add a fixed list of items to this tool strip, if you work at it, you can add just about any control here. You'll need to investigate the tool strip control host control, which allows you to place other controls on the tool strip. Now you could react to each item's click event. So I could, for example, double-click one of these and have a click event for the new tool strip button. You know what? Most of the time, it's easier to route all the clicks through a single event handler. In this case, I'm going to go for the tool strips item clicked event. The item clicked event gets passed a tool strip item clicked event args object, which gives me the clicked item, so I can know which item was clicked. So I'm going to do something real standard. Let's make a procedure called display info, passing in a piece of text. And inside here, for now, I'll just do message box.show you clicked and whatever you pass in. Up here in our item clicked event handler, let's add code to handle specific button clicks. I'll enter a switch statement based on e.clickedItem. I don't know what to choose here, which property is unique, but I think the tooltip text will be the most unique feature of each button. Within the switch, I'll add case statements. So case cut will display info cut, and we'll break. Case so copy will display info copy and break. And say case paste will display info paste and break. And in the default case, we'll just display info e.clickedItem.toolTip text and break. So it seems kind of silly. Sure, we could have called this code for all of them, but most of the time you want separate cases for each item on your tool strip. Let's save everything. Bring up the form, and now if I click something like cut, there's you click cut, copy, paste, and so on. In this procedure, we've handled the item clicked event of the tool strip, which allows you to trap the click event of each button without having to write individual event handlers for each of them. We've added a menu strip and a tool strip. Let's start now and add a status strip. Go back to our toolbox, add a status strip. There we are. And here are the controls you can add to a status strip. There's status label, progress bar, drop-down button, and split button controls on the status bar. Well, usually we need a status label, so I'll choose that first. Now let's go set some properties of that status label. Let's set, for example, its name to be info status label. Let's set the spring property to be true, so it springs to fit all the available space, and let's clear out the text property. And finally, set the text align property to middle left. Let's go modify our existing code to write text into the status label. In display info, rather than calling messagebox.show, let's write text into info status label. Info status label.text equals. There we go. So now, rather than displaying an alert, we'll put the text directly into the status label. Save it, run it, bring up our form, and you'll see now as we click items, the text appears in our status strip. I can resize, and of course that now fills the entire space using the status strip control. You'll often use one or more tool strip status label controls on a status strip, and you have several options for controlling their formatting and behavior. We'll look at the border style property, the border size property, and the spring property and how they interact. The border style property determines how the border is rendered. You can select from the border 3D style enumeration, and that allows for adjust, bump, etched, flat, raised, raised inner, raised outer, sunken, sunken inner, sunk. It's hard to describe these without looking, and we'll look at a demonstration that shows how these work in a few moments. The border sides property controls which sides get rendered. You can select one or more from tool strip status label border sides, that enumeration, including all, bottom left, right, top, or none. You can combine bottom left, top, right together to get one or more sides displayed. These values are bits, so you just add them together using your OR operator. The spring property determines whether the control expands to fill its available space. The status strip renders fixed-sized controls first, then allocates the remaining space to controls that have their spring property set to true. Let's look at some examples that demonstrate this behavior. I'll choose Status Strip Appearance from our main menu here, and you can see we have many options for working with our status strip and the status strip label control. Right now we have the border style set to flat. We can choose some other border style, and let's turn all on so we can actually see it. And there we have raised outer set. I can choose sunken outer, raised inner, and what fun you can have trying all the different options for the border style on the status strip label. You can also choose to show just some of the border sides of the label. Let's also turn spring off for this one, so now it uses just enough space to display its text. This one is not set to spring. This one is set to spring, so it fills up all the rest. We can see that if we display all three borders. This is small, this is small, this one is set to spring. If we don't set any of them to spring, then they're all the minimum size possible. Use this example to try out these three properties. That is, the border style, the border sides property, and the spring property. This one form lets you experiment with all three and how they interact together. The context menu strip control allows you to add context menus to other controls. It's invisible at design time, and it adds context menu support to any other control. It works just like the other strip controls, so let's try a demonstration that shows off adding context menu support to our form. I've opened our test form again in Design View, and now I'll add a context menu strip control to this form. And there we are. And notice, by the way, that if you move the focus off of the context menu strip, its designer disappears. It's only visible when that control has the focus. This control allows you to add the same controls as you can add to a menu strip, except that the top-level item is named context menu strip, and you can't add any more top-level items. We'll add items to the control now. Maybe we'll add items that correspond to things you might want to do with the form. Let's add maximize, restore, a separator, and then exit. So there's our context menu strip, and we need to assign it to this form because a form might have more than one context menu strip control, and you can change the active one at any time. You have to tell the form which context menu strip to use. We'll need to go to the form, find its properties, and set its context menu strip property to be the one context menu strip we've created. There we go. Now we also need to add some behavior to the context menu strip. So again, just like on the tool strip, I could add click event handlers for each button, but it's just easier to double-click the strip in general and I get the wrong event. That isn't the event I wanted. The event I wanted was the item clicked event. So let's go over here, go to Properties, go to the Events tab. I want the item clicked event. So I'll double-click there, and we'll handle the item clicked event for this. And I'll do a switch based on e.clickedItem.text. We're using the text of the item this time as the unique identifier. I'll add a case for the item maximize. I'll put a break now. Case restore, break, and case exit. Break goes in there. And now let's add some real code. In the exit, I'll close the form. In the maximize, I'll set this.windowState equal to formWindowState.maximized. And in restore, I'll set this.windowState equal to formWindowState.normal. And that's all we need to do. We're handling the item clicked event of the context menu strip. I save this and press F5 to run it. Display our test form. Right-click, choose maximize, and we maximize. Choose right-click and choose restore, and we restore. Right-click and choose exit, and we close the form. So it's simple to add a context menu to a form and add code to that context menu. You might want to allow users to relocate tool strip controls at runtime. You could write the code yourself, but the tool strip container makes it easy. Essentially, the tool strip container control is a container for tool strip controls. You can have 4 tool strip panel controls docked to the edges of your form and put a panel control in the middle. There's the left tool strip panel, the right tool strip panel, the top tool strip panel, the bottom tool strip panel, and the content panel. That is, the tool strip container control gives you all of that. All you have to do is put your controls in the right place, set things up correctly, and users can move them around. Let's try a demonstration that shows off this behavior. In order to add items to the tool strip container, they need to be undocked. So I'm going to go to each of these controls here and set the dock property to none. And now this one can go out of the way. And this one, set the dock to be none and move it out of the way. Now I could do this for the menu strip as well, but you'll see that each of the controls offers the option to embed in the tool strip container. So I'm going to choose that option for the menu strip, and now it appears within the tool strip container. Let's dock, fill, and form, but what happened to our other controls? They're buried underneath the panel area here. So if I choose Reparent Controls, it pulls the controls that were on the form into the panel of the tool strip container. Now all we have to do is expand the various panels and drag the controls down into those panels. There I've moved the status strip into the bottom panel, and I can move the tool strip into the top panel. I can drag it to the left if I want. In any case, I'm done laying this out, so I should now be able to save and run the form. No code involved. Here in my form, I should be able to grab this and drag it onto any other edge of my form. Without writing any code, the tool strip container control allows us to allow users to move toolbars around the form, docking them to any edge you like. Each item on a menu strip or tool strip and so on is an instance of a tool strip item or a class that inherits from that class. And they all share many common members. We can use the Item Collection Editor dialog box to edit items on any of these strips. We'll select the Items property of the parent and then use the dialog box to edit the items. Let's give it a try. To use the Item Collection Editor, just select one of the strip controls, in this case, say, the menu strip, go to the Properties, choose Items, and here you can see all the items hanging off of the menu strip. You can add a new item, you can edit individual items, and this is a great way to edit a single property across all of the menu strip items, because you can select them one after the other and just go to a particular property and set the value. On the File tool strip menu item, for example, you can go and set any of its properties here, and there are a lot of properties. It's a lot easier seeing all the properties here than it would be from this location here. So you may find it easier for each of these controls, no matter which one you choose. Here I'll do the tool strip, go to its Items property. Let's select the tool strip first. There we go. Choose the Items property, and you can use the Item Collections Editor to edit all the items on that menu, adding items and setting properties of each one. It's a useful technique to work with each of the items on one of these strips. There are several properties that affect the display of tool strip items. You can control the display behavior using these properties. Display style can be any of image, image and text, none, or just text. The text-image relation property controls how the image and the text work together, and the alignment property indicates how items on the tool strip item are aligned. Items are always attached in their index order, that is, lowered number indexes appear further to the right. Let's look at an example that demonstrates how each of these properties affects the display of tool strip items. For this demonstration, I clicked the tool strip item properties, and we can try out various display styles. For example, we have image, image and text, just text, or none, which isn't very useful at all. How about image and text? If we have image and text, we can set the text-image relation. We can overlay them. Again, a little odd looking. Image above text, text above image, image before text, text before image. These are all the possible combinations of text and image together. We can also decide what order to align things. For example, let's make the form a little bigger here and just show images. I can right align the new tool strip button. I can right align new and open. These always appear in the reverse order that they appeared on the original toolbar. Since that was item number 0, it appears furthest to the right. That was item 1, it now appears next to furthest to the right, and so on. You wouldn't normally choose more than one of these to be right aligned. That's a common look, is putting the Help tool strip button far to the right. So the alignment to the right allows us to control which buttons appear on the far right side of the tool strip. You might want to allow users to make changes to the toolbars at runtime. Maybe they want to move items on menus or toolbars, or move the menus and toolbars. That's fine, but how do you save the changes? Next time you load the form, how do you make it so the changes to the menus and toolbars appear on the form? Do you have to write a lot of code to make this happen? Well, not a whole lot. You can let the tool strip do the work. If the Allow Item Reorder property is true, users can reorder items. If the grip style property is visible, users can move toolbars and menus within the tool strip container. You just have to write a little code to save and restore the customizations. Let's try a demonstration that shows off this behavior. In order to allow customizations, I'll start by modifying our context menu strip. I need to insert a new item and have the text of this be Allow Customizations. I'll probably want to insert a divider above that, so we'll add a separator there. And we'll go to the Properties window and set the name property of this thing to be Allow Customizations Tool Strip Menu Item. And let's look at the code. Within the code, I want to add a private variable that keeps track of whether we're allowing customizations or not. Private bool allow customizations equals false. Let's find our item clicked event handler that we already wrote, which is way down here, and add a new case for allow customizations. First thing I need to do is grab a reference to the item that was clicked. So I'll create a tool strip menu item variable. I'll call it item. And we'll cast as a tool strip menu item the value we got, which is e.clickedItem. There we go. And now we need to toggle the state of the item. So item.checked equals not item.checked. And allow customizations, our variable, equals item.checked. So we'll keep track of whether it was checked or it wasn't. We'll toggle the state and set the variable equal to the new state. Now we need to tell the controls to allow customizations. I'll add tool strip one.allow item reorder equals allow customizations. Menu strip one.allow item reorder equals allow customizations. And if we're allowing customizations, I need to set the grip style correctly. Tool strip one.gripStyle equals gripStyle.visible. Otherwise, I'll set tool strip one.gripStyle equal to hidden. Now we need to write some code in the form's load event handler. So let's go back to the designer and double-click the form to get to the form's load event handler. We'll need to make sure that the grip style property of all the controls is set to hidden and that the allow item reorder properties of all the controls are set to false. So here, we'll add the code. Tool strip 1 dot allow item reorder equals false. Tool strip 1 dot grip style equals hidden. Menu strip 1 dot allow item reorder equals false. Menu strip 1 dot grip style equals hidden. And status strip 1 dot allow item reorder equals false. And status strip 1 dot grip style equals hidden. I also need to make sure that when I select something from the context menu strip, that is, when I display it, the allow customization has the correct check mark on it. To do that, I'll select the context menu strip, go to the properties, go to the events, choose opening. I had created this inadvertently before, but now I add code to it. It's allow customizations tool strip menu item dot checked equals allow customizations. That should do it. I'll save everything and press F5, and we have an error. Oh, what's the matter? Oh yeah, we kind of need a break, don't we? Yeah. So after this is all done, before the next case, we need to insert a break. I'll try again. Save and run. Now if I allow customizations, there we go. I should be able to drag this around, put it back if I want, or over here. I can also Alt-click on items and move them somewhere else. Now I've moved the printer icon second and it's on the right. Let's see what happens if I close the form and reopen it. Everything's lost. So clearly we need some way to save the changes that I make to the menus and toolbars. We'll work that out next. That allow item reorder thing is nice, but it has issues. For example, you can't change the hotkey. You can use Alt-click to click on an icon and move it somewhere else on a toolbar, but you can't change the hotkey. You can't programmatically switch into the magic reorder mode. You can't limit the items to be reordered. That is, you can't have some items reordered and others not. You can't drag items on or off a tool strip. You can just move them around on the tool strip. You can't move items from one tool strip to another. And you can't modify the built-in behavior by trapping keystrokes or mouse clicks. In other words, allow item reorder works great if it does what you want it to do. Otherwise, you just have to write your own code to make it happen. You may want to save and restore your customizations. To do that, we'll use the toolstripmanager.saveSettings and loadSettings methods. These methods store and retrieve customizations to the Documents and Settings folder. Actually, it depends on the operating system where it puts it. But in any case, it'll be under your username /local settings /application data. It stores it in the same place as isolated storage, in case you've ever investigated that technology. It stores data on a form-by-form basis. You can also pass a unique key for your form if you're using multiple instances of the same form in memory at the same time. The Toolstrip Manager class has other useful members, such as you can determine has a shortcut key been used or is a shortcut key valid. You can also merge and revert Toolstrip instances using the Toolstrip Manager. For now, let's look at saving and restoring settings in our demonstration. In order to save the settings, we'll add code to the form closing event handler. So we'll select our form, go to the properties, go to events, go to form closing, double click, and here we'll add our code. toolstripmanager.saveSettings, passing in a reference to this form. That takes care of saving the settings, and that'll never cause a problem. We do have a problem in the load event handler when we want to load the settings, however, because there may not be any settings saved already. So in the load event handler, we need to add a little code to load the settings, but ensure that if they aren't there, we just don't do anything. So we'll add a try block. There we are. I type try and press tab to create the try block. Here, we'll do toolstripmanager.loadSettings, passing a reference to this form. And in the catch block, we don't even need to catch an exception. Just catch and do nothing at all. We'll just fail silently if we couldn't load the settings. This is a cheap trick, but it works. In your catch block, just put nothing at all. And in that case, should an exception occur, you won't see an error, you won't throw the exception, just nothing will happen. Well, let's try it once again to see if it works. I've saved the project. Click the button. Bring up the form. Allow customizations. Let's move, say, Alt-click, move the help button first. Drag this thing to the bottom. There we are. Let's close the form. Now when I reopen it, those settings have been saved because we've used the ToolStrip Manager class to save and then reload the settings as the form is closing and then reopening. There are issues involved with layout and overflow on the ToolStrip control. The ToolStrip does support automatic overflow, so that if you resize a container and all the controls no longer fit, items rearrange as necessary. You can also click the arrow icon on the ToolStrip to display the overflow controls. The ToolStrip class provides some properties you can use to help. There's the can overflow property, and that determines whether or not you allow overflow. And there's the layout style property, which determines how it lays out when it's overflowing. The ToolStrip item class also supports the overflow property, which can be set to never, always, and as needed. So any individual ToolStrip item can never overflow, can always overflow, or only overflow as needed. The layout style property supports several different values. You can choose from one of flow, horizontal stack with overflow, table layout, vertical stack with overflow. Let's try a demonstration which points out the behavior of the overflow features of the ToolStrip control. On our sample form, I'll load the ToolStrip layout demonstration, and this form allows us to play with various properties of layout and overflow. Right now, let's set overflow off, and let's try resizing the form. Resize the form and things just fall off the edge. That's the way it works. Now let's open the form back up and turn on can overflow again. Let's try out the various styles. Horizontal stack with overflow causes the form to display the little drop-down arrow, and there we see the controls that were overflowed off the form. Let's try a different one. Let's dock the tool strip on the left and try vertical stack with overflow. Now if I resize the form this way, we get the arrow here, and those controls that didn't fit have overflowed off to the side. You can set the layout style to horizontal stack with overflow while the tool strip is docked to the left, but it won't look very good. That's not an attractive look. There we go. Much better. Let's select top and flow. There we go. We're docked to the top and the layout style is flow, and now if I resize the form so it's too small, they don't overflow, they just go to a second row. That's the flow layout. In any case, familiarize yourself with the various possibilities of docking the tool strip at various sides of the document, at various sides of the form, and then choosing the options here for laying out the overflow or not having overflow for your tool strip so you can understand how they all interact together.